The night sky above the NASA Deep Space Observatory was clear. Stars glittered like diamonds on black velvet. Olivia Grant sat alone in the monitoring room, her eyes fixed on the screens. She sipped her coffee, now cold after sitting forgotten, for hours. A small beep from her console made her sit up straight. She put down her mug and leaned forward. The signal was faint but unmistakable, an energy pattern she had never seen before coming from just beyond Neptune's orbit. "That's not right," she whispered. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, running the detection protocols again. The same result appeared. Something big was out there and it was moving toward Earth. Olivia reached for her phone and dialed the emergency number. "This is Dr. Grant at Station 5. I need to speak with Director Peterson right away. We have a situation." 3 hours later, the small conference room at the Pentagon was packed with military officers and scientists. Olivia stood before them, showing her data on the large screen. The object is approximately 2 miles long. It's moving at speeds that defy our current understanding of physics. And it's definitely not natural, she explained. General Howard, a stern man with gray hair, turned to the man sitting next to him. "Major Collins, this falls under your jurisdiction now." Major Frank Collins nodded. At 42, he had spent the last decade building up the Space Defense Force, a branch of the military most people thought was unnecessary. Until today. "Dr. Grant, how long until this object reaches Earth?" he asked. "At its current speed, 3 days." The room fell silent. "We need more information before we cause a global panic," the general said. "Major, assemble your team. You're going up to the lunar base. That's our best observation point." 12 hours later, Frank and his team of 6 were aboard the lunar base, using its powerful telescopes to track the approaching object. What they saw left them speechless. "That's a ship," Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez said, her voice barely above a whisper. The object on their screens was clearly artificial, a massive vessel with a design unlike anything humans had created. Its surface gleamed with lights and what appeared to be weapon ports. "Send everything back to Earth," Frank ordered, "and get me a direct line to the general." Meanwhile, at the United Nations in New York, an emergency session had been called. Representatives from every nation gathered, their faces grim. Ambassador Kelvin Ramirez, chosen for his calm demeanor and diplomatic experience, was selected to represent Earth should contact become necessary. "We don't know their intentions," he told the assembly, "but we must present a united front." As the ship entered Earth's orbit, something unexpected happened. Every screen on the planet, televisions, computers, phones, billboards, suddenly showed the same image. A humanoid figure with pale blue skin and eyes like black pools. "People of Earth," the figure spoke in perfect English. "I am High Commander Zexatral of the Galactic Imperial Fleet. Your planet has been observed for centuries, and the time has come for your incorporation into the Empire." Across the globe, people stopped in the streets, in their homes, at work, all watching the same broadcast. "Earth is situated in a strategically valuable position. Your resources are required. Your population will be allowed to continue existence under Imperial rule," Zexatral continued. "You have 30 solar days to dismantle your military forces and prepare for Imperial governance. This is the final warning you will receive. Resistance will result in cleansing." The screens went dark, returning to their normal functions. At the lunar base, Frank and his team had watched the broadcast in stunned silence. "They're going to invade," Maria said. "No," Frank replied, his jaw tight. "They're going to wipe us out if we don't surrender." Back on Earth, chaos erupted. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders claimed it was the end times. Military forces around the world went on high alert. President Bell addressed the nation from the Oval Office. "We face an unprecedented threat. But humanity has faced extinction before, from ice ages, from plagues, from our own weapons. Each time we survived. We will survive this too." In a secure underground facility, Ambassador Ramirez was briefed on his new mission. Establish communication with the aliens and buy time. "How do I even contact them?" he asked. As if in answer, a small probe appeared in the sky above the White House. It hovered silently, then projected a hologram. Zextral again. "We will accept one representative to discuss the terms of your surrender," the hologram announced, then displayed coordinates in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Within hours, Kelvin was aboard a military helicopter heading to the meeting point. Below him, the ocean stretched endlessly. Then he saw it. A platform had appeared on the water, seemingly from nowhere. The helicopter landed and Kelvin stepped out alone. A doorway opened in what had appeared to be thin air, a cloaking technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. Zextral stood waiting, taller in person, nearly 7 feet high. "Ambassador Ramirez," he said, "your primitive species surprises me. Most planets surrender immediately." "Humans are full of surprises," Kelvin replied, struggling to keep his voice steady. While this meeting took place, Frank and his team made a discovery on the far side of the moon. "Sir, you need to see this," Maria called out. Frank looked through the telescope at what she had found. Hidden in the shadows of a crater was a small structure, clearly artificial and clearly not human-made. "They've been watching us," Frank realized. "Monitoring us. For how long?" After scanning the moon's surface, they found more. Dozens of small, monitoring stations perfectly camouflaged. "They're all over the solar system," Maria reported after checking more data. "We found similar energy signatures on Mars, on several asteroids. They've had us under surveillance for years, maybe centuries." Frank took a deep breath. "We have 30 days to figure out how to fight an enemy that can travel between stars. An enemy that has technology we can barely understand." "Do you think we can win?" Maria asked. Frank looked at the massive Imperial ship that now hung in orbit around Earth, visible even to the naked eye from the lunar surface. "I don't know, but I know we have to try." Back on Earth, Dr. Samantha Wright, a physicist at MIT, was studying the broadcast, frame by frame. Something about the Imperial technology triggered an idea. She picked up her phone. "Get me the Pentagon," she said. "I think I found a weakness." The clock was ticking. 30 days until surrender or destruction. But already, humanity was doing what it did best, preparing to fight back against impossible odds. 5 days had passed since the alien ultimatum. The world's nations, usually divided by politics and old grudges, now faced a common enemy. In Washington, D.C., leaders from every country gathered to form the Earth Defense Council. "We have 25 days left," President Bell said, looking around the table. "We need options." General Howard stood up. "Our combined military forces are ready, but we don't know if our weapons will even affect their ships." On a large screen, Dr. Samantha Wright appeared from her lab at MIT. Her red hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept much. "The alien technology uses an energy pattern I've never seen before," she explained. "But every system has weaknesses. I need more data. If we could get a sample of their technology, I might find something useful." Frank Collins, now promoted to colonel, spoke up. "My team detected monitoring stations all over our solar system. If we could capture one, Dr. Wright might learn something." The council approved the mission. Within hours, Frank and his team boarded the military space shuttle Eagle. Their destination, a small Imperial monitoring station hidden on Mars. The journey took 3 days. As they approached the red planet, Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez pointed at their target. "There it is, just like the ones on the moon." The small dome-shaped structure sat in a crater, almost invisible against the Martian landscape. The team landed, a mile away, and approached in their spacesuits. "No signs of life," Frank said, scanning the station. "Let's move in." They cut through the outer shell of the station and entered. Inside, strange machines hummed quietly. The air was breathable, which surprised them. "They must have expected to visit these stations themselves," Maria said. Suddenly, a small drone appeared from behind a panel. It moved toward them, making high-pitched noises. "Don't shoot unless it attacks," Frank ordered. The drone scanned them with a beam of light, then turned and flew toward a control panel. Frank lunged forward and grabbed it. The machine buzzed angrily and sent a shock through his suit, but he held on. "Got it." Let's grab what we can and get out. They took the drone and several small devices from the station. As they left, an alarm began to sound. "Move!" Frank shouted. They raced back to their shuttle. As they lifted off, a beam of energy shot past them from the station. "Self-defense system," Maria said. "We triggered something." They escaped into space, but knew their actions wouldn't go unnoticed. Back on Earth, Ambassador Ramirez was having his third meeting with ZXSTRAL aboard the alien's ship. The Imperial commander looked down at him with what seemed like amusement. "Your people continue to prepare for war," ZXSTRAL said. "It is pointless. The Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds, many more advanced than yours." Kelvin kept his face neutral. "We're simply considering all options. Surely you understand that accepting rule by an alien power requires careful thought." ZXSTRAL made a sound that might have been laughter. "You misunderstand your position, Ambassador. We are not offering a choice. We are giving you time to accept reality." "Why Earth?" Kelvin asked. "There must be many planets in the galaxy. Your location is valuable. Your resources are useful. Your species is adaptable. The Empire values efficiency. Wiping out your population would waste potential workers." Kelvin felt cold at these words. "I see. And if we refuse? Then you will be replaced by species more willing to serve." ZXSTRAL turned away. "You have 22 more days. Use them wisely." When Kelvin returned to Earth, he reported directly to the Defense Council. "They don't see us as equals," he said. "At best, they view us as useful animals." Meanwhile, at MIT, Samantha Wright was examining the drone and devices from the Mars station. She worked day and night, barely stopping to eat or sleep. Olivia Grant from NASA joined her team. Together, they made an important discovery. "Look at this," Olivia pointed to her computer screen. "I compared the energy signature from the alien tech to some ancient archaeological readings. There are matches at sites in Egypt, Peru, and China." "They've been here before," Samantha realized. "Thousands of years ago. What we thought were just myths about gods from the sky were actually earlier visits by the Empire," Samantha finished. Their work was interrupted by an alarm. Outside, the sky filled with small Imperial ships. "Scout vessels," said the military officer guarding the lab. "They're landing all over the world." In Arizona, one of these ships touched down in the desert. Frank and his team were sent to investigate. The ship was smaller than expected, about the size of a bus. As they approached, a door opened. 3 aliens emerged, each carrying what looked like weapons. "Hold position," Frank told his team. "Don't fire unless they do." The aliens scanned the area. They didn't seem to notice the humans hiding behind rocks and cacti. One alien, shorter than the others and wearing different markings, appeared to be giving orders. Frank made a decision. "Take out the 2 guards. Non-lethal if possible. I want the leader alive." His team moved with perfect coordination. Stun weapons, fired, and the 2 taller aliens fell. The leader turned, raising his weapon, but Frank was faster. He tackled the alien to the ground. After a brief struggle, they had the alien secured. "I am Kralvex, Junior Commander of the Imperial Scouts," the alien said in perfect English. "You have committed an act of war." "You did that when you threatened our planet," Frank replied. They transported Kralvex to a secure facility. Under questioning, the alien revealed important information. "The cleansing platforms are already being positioned around your world," Kralvex said. "When the deadline expires, they will activate. Your atmosphere will be altered to be unsuitable for your species, but perfect for the colonists that will replace you." "How do we stop them?" Frank demanded. Kralvex made the strange laughing sound. "You cannot. Your weapons are useless against Imperial shields." But as Samantha studied the drone and listened to recordings of Kralvex's statements, she noticed something. "Their technology relies on a specific radiation frequency," she told the council. "If we could generate a counter-frequency, we might disrupt their systems." "Can you build something that would do that?" President Bell asked. "With help, yes. But I'll need more resources and the best engineers on the planet." The council gave her everything she requested. Engineer Marcus Johnson, known for his work on experimental weapons, was assigned to help her. As Imperial ships continued to arrive in Earth's orbit, humanity raced against time. The deadline was approaching, and their only hope lay in Samantha's theory. "We have to try," she told Marcus as they worked. "Because if we surrender, we'll never be free again." Samantha Wright hadn't left her lab in 3 days. Coffee cups and empty food containers littered the tables around her workspace. Marcus Johnson sat across from her, his fingers moving quickly as he built a small device based on her designs. "If this works," Samantha said, "we might have a chance." Marcus nodded without looking up. "The theory is sound. Their technology uses that strange radiation frequency for almost everything. Communications, weapons, shields. And if we can disrupt it—" Samantha didn't finish the sentence. They both knew what was at stake. Outside, the sky had changed. Imperial ships now hung visible even in daylight, dark shapes against the blue. 15 days had passed since the ultimatum. 15 days remained. At NASA, Olivia Grant made another discovery. She had been studying ancient texts from cultures around the world, looking for more evidence of previous alien visits. "Look at this," she said to her assistant, pointing at her screen. "These hieroglyphs from Egypt, these carvings from Mexico, and these cave paintings from Australia, they all show the same thing. The images showed tall figures performing something on smaller human figures. I think they were experimenting on us," Olivia said quietly. "All those ancient stories about gods creating humans. What if the Empire was genetically modifying early humans?" She sent her findings to the Defense Council immediately. At the council meeting, a new face joined the group, Dr. Lisa Patel, a genetic expert. "We compared DNA samples from the captured Imperial, Kralvex, with human DNA," she explained. "There are similarities that can't be coincidental. But there's something else. Humans have genetic markers that aren't present in Imperial DNA. These markers are connected to our brain development." "What does that mean?" President Bell asked. "It means," Lisa said slowly, "that we might have been engineered by them long ago. But something in our evolution took an unexpected turn. Our brains developed differently than they planned. This information was kept secret from the public to prevent panic, but it gave the scientists a new direction to explore. Meanwhile, Frank and his team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. Intelligence had discovered an Imperial advance base on the dark side of the moon. "We need more of their tech," Frank told his team as they boarded their shuttle. "Dr. Wright's prototypes need testing against active Imperial systems." The journey to the moon was tense. They knew the Empire would have increased security after their last raid. The lunar base came into view, a dome-like structure similar to the Mars station but much larger. "Heat signatures inside," Maria reported. "At least 5 Imperials. They landed a mile away and approached on foot, or rather in the bouncing gait required by the moon's low gravity. Their spacesuits were specially designed for this mission, with extra armor and built-in weapons. Remember, Frank said, we need their equipment intact, and if possible, I want prisoners. They reached the base and used the knowledge gained from the Mars raid to bypass the outer security. Inside, they found what they were looking for, a room full of Imperial technology. Download everything, Frank ordered. Grab anything portable. Yadar. They worked. They heard a noise. Frank turned to see 3 Imperials entering the room. The aliens raised their weapons. Surrender, humans, one said. Frank fired his stun weapon. 2 Imperials fell, but the third ducked behind a console and returned. Fire. Energy blasts hit the wall behind Frank. Maria circled around and took the 3rd Imperial by surprise. After a brief struggle, all 3 aliens were unconscious. Bind them and bring them, Frank said. And grab that console, it looks important. They escaped with their prizes just as alarms began to sound throughout the base. Back on Earth, Samantha and Marcus received the stolen technology. With it, they could finally test their disruptor device. Everyone stand back, Samantha warned. She activated an Imperial communication device they had captured, then pointed their prototype at it. She pressed a button. The alien device sputtered, sparked, and went dead. It works, Marcus shouted. It actually works. Samantha smiled for the first time in days. This is just a small device. We need to scale it up and way up to affect their ships. While the scientists worked, Ambassador Ramirez continued his meetings with Zexatral. During one session, he learned something valuable. Your resistance is noted, Zexatral said, but understand that Earth is merely one of many worlds being brought into the Empire at this time. Our forces are engaged in similar operations across this sector of the galaxy. This information was reported to the Council immediately. They're stretched thin, General Howard realized, fighting on multiple fronts. Which means, Frank added, that the force here might be smaller than we thought. With 10 days remaining, humanity's plan took shape. Factories around the world worked day and night, building disruptor devices based on Samantha's design. Military forces trained for space operations. And Olivia made another breakthrough. While studying the brain of a dead Imperial scout, she discovered something odd. Their neural pathways are rigidly fixed, she told the Council. Unlike human brains, which are highly adaptable, we can learn new skills throughout our lives. They can't. How does this help us? President Bell asked. Lisa Patel spoke up. We think this is connected to those unique genetic markers I found. Humans can adapt in ways the Imperials can't. Our minds are more flexible. Frank thought about this. So in a fair fight, we might actually have an advantage? If we can neutralize their technological advantage, yes, Samantha said. Their minds are specialized, ours are generalists. With this knowledge, the final elements of the plan fell into place. Large disruptor arrays were positioned around the globe, hidden from Imperial scans. Military space vessels, previously kept secret, were armed with smaller disruptors. 3 days before the deadline, the Earth Defense Council approved the plan. We won't wait for them to attack, President Bell said. We strike first. Frank was chosen to lead the main assault team. Their target, the Imperial command platform that had recently arrived in orbit. The night before the mission, he looked up at the sky. The Imperial ships were clearly visible now, like new stars. We've always been good at beating the odds, he said quietly to himself. Time to prove it again. The day of humanity's counterattack arrived. Before dawn, military bases around the world hummed with activity. Pilots checked their aircraft, soldiers loaded weapons, engineers made final adjustments to the disruptor devices. Colonel Frank Collins stood before his team in the launch bay. 20 men and women in advanced spacesuits looked back at him. They were Earth's best, astronauts, special forces, and combat engineers. Today we fight not just for ourselves but for our entire species, Frank said. We know their technology is superior, but we have Samantha's disruptors, and we have something they don't expect, the will to fight against impossible odds. Their ship, the Defender, was Earth's most advanced space vessel. Until now, its existence had been kept secret from the public. It was smaller than the Imperial ships but built for combat. Launch in 5 minutes, came the announcement over the speakers. Frank turned to Maria. Ready for this? She nodded, her face serious behind her helmet visor. Born ready, sir. Around the world, similar scenes played out as Earth's hidden fleet prepared to launch. 20 ships, each carrying special forces teams equipped with disruptors. At exactly 0600 hours GMT, they took off. The Defender shot into the sky, followed by the others. In orbit, the Imperial fleet hung like dark clouds. 12 large warships surrounded the massive command platform. None of them reacted as the Earth vessels approached. They don't consider us a threat, Frank said. That's our advantage. Samantha's voice came through their comms. She was in the control center below, with Marcus. Remember, the disruptors have a limited range. You need to get close. The Earth fleet spread out, each ship targeting a different Imperial vessel. Frank's team aimed for the command platform itself. All ships in position, came the report. Awaiting your order, Colonel. Frank took a deep breath. Activate disruptors now. Across the fleet, the devices powered up. A strange wave of energy, invisible but powerful, washed out from the Earth ships. The effect was immediate. The Imperial vessels, previously glowing with energy, suddenly dimmed. Their weapon ports closed. Their shields flickered and failed. It's working, someone shouted. All teams, commence boarding operations, Frank ordered. The Defender approached the now vulnerable command platform, magnetic clamps attached to its hull. Frank's team moved through the airlock and cut their way inside. They met resistance immediately. Imperial guards fired at them, but their weapons sputtered and failed. The humans fired back with conventional guns, which worked perfectly. "Push forward," Frank ordered. "Find the control center." They fought their way through the alien corridors. The layout was confusing, but they had studied the smaller vessels and had a rough idea where to go. Meanwhile, across Earth's orbit, similar battles took place. Human forces boarded the disabled Imperial ships. The surprised aliens found themselves facing an enemy they had dismissed as primitive, but who now held the upper hand. On the command platform, Frank's team reached a large door that wouldn't open, even with their cutting tools. "This has to be it," he said. "Plant the charges." They blew the door open and rushed inside. It was indeed the control center. A dozen Imperials turned to face them, including one Frank recognized from the broadcasts, High Commander Zexatral himself. "Impossible," Zexatral said. "How did you disable our systems?" "Human ingenuity," Frank replied. "Something you clearly underestimated." The Imperials were quickly subdued. Frank approached the main control panel. It was covered in strange symbols. "Need to shut down their cleansing platforms," he said. "But I can't read this." Maria examined the controls. "Maybe we don't need to read it. Remember what Dr. Patel said about our brains being more adaptable?" She pointed to what looked like neural interfaces on the Imperial control chairs. Devices, meant to link directly with the operator's mind. "Their technology is partially psychic," she said. "They don't just use buttons and screens. They connect directly." Frank looked at the interface. It was a risk, but they had no choice. "I'll do it." He sat in the command chair and placed the neural interface on his head. Pain shot through his body. His vision blurred. Strange symbols flooded his mind. "Frank," Maria called out, concerned. Then suddenly, clarity. The alien systems began to make sense to him. He could feel the ship's functions, could direct them with his thoughts. "I can access it," he said, his voice strained. "Our brains really are different, more flexible." Through the neural link, Frank could see the entire Imperial network, the cleansing platforms, the weapon systems, everything. "I'm redirecting the cleansing platforms into the sun," he said, "and shutting down their weapons." But then he felt something else, a counterattack. Zexatral had somehow connected to a backup system and was fighting back through the network. "He's trying to override me," Frank grunted, "and he's calling for reinforcements." Outside, new Imperial ships began appearing, the reinforcements arriving through some kind of faster-than-light travel. "We're about to be overwhelmed," Maria said, looking at the tactical display. Frank pushed deeper into the neural connection. The pain was intense, but he discovered something amazing. He could access Imperial systems better than they could themselves. His human brain, more adaptable and creative, found pathways the rigid Imperial minds couldn't see. "I have an idea," he said. "Help me connect to the fleet comms." Maria patched him through. Frank sent a message to all Earth forces. "Connect to their neural interfaces. Our minds can control their systems better than they can. It's our advantage." Across the battle, human soldiers found and connected to Imperial interfaces. At first, many screamed in pain. But then, one by one, they gained control. Earth ships that had been about to be overwhelmed suddenly turned the tide. Captured Imperial vessels began to move under human control, turning against their own fleet. From the neural network, Frank sent a final order. "Broadcast this to all Imperial forces. Earth is not surrendering. Earth is taking control." The reinforcement fleet hesitated, confused by the sight of their own ships turning against them. Several began to retreat. On the command platform, Frank stood up, removing the interface. Blood trickled from his nose, but he was smiling. "It works. Their greatest strength is now ours," he said. "And they have no defense against it." Maria looked at the tactical display in awe. Imperial ships were either retreating or under human control. "We're winning," she whispered. Frank nodded, looking at the captured Zexatral. The final warning was given, he said to the alien commander. But it should have been for you, not us. 2 weeks had passed since the battle. Earth's cities buzzed with activity and celebration. The skies, once filled with Imperial ships, now held only those vessels humans had captured and learned to control. In Washington, D.C., the Earth Defense Council convened again, but with new faces at the table. Ambassador Kelvin Ramirez sat beside representatives from 3 other worlds that had been targeted by the Empire. The coalition is growing, Kelvin told the council. Since we broadcast our victory, 17 planets have reached out to us. All of them were either under Imperial rule or facing invasion. President Bell nodded. And they all want our help. Our neural advantage works for their people too, Kelvin explained. Any species with adaptable brain patterns can use the interface, better than the Imperials. In her lab at MIT, Samantha Wright worked with Marcus Johnson on understanding the captured Imperial technology. They had made remarkable progress. Their faster-than-light drive is surprisingly simple once you understand the principles, Samantha said, pointing to diagrams on her screen. We could build our own within a year. Marcus nodded. And their power generation makes ours look like steam engines. Clean energy for the entire planet. Olivia Grant had joined their team, bringing her knowledge of ancient human history and its connection to the Empire. I found more evidence that they've been manipulating Earth species for over 50,000 years, she said. But they abandoned the project suddenly about 10,000 years ago. Something went wrong with their experiment. We went wrong, Samantha replied with a smile. We developed in ways they didn't expect. In a secure medical facility, Dr. Lisa Patel continued her studies of Imperial biology. Their genetic structure is remarkably uniform, she told Frank during his visit. Almost no variation between individuals. It makes them vulnerable to diseases and genetic disorders. And explains, they're rigid thinking, Frank added. They don't have our diversity. Frank had become something of a hero. His face appeared on magazine covers and news programs. Children dressed as him for Halloween. But fame didn't interest him. He spent most of his time working with the captured Imperial ships, training pilots to use the neural interfaces, HFY. Commander Zexatral remained in custody, but was now being treated as a diplomatic prisoner rather than a war criminal. During interrogation, he had revealed much about the Empire. The Galactic Council has ruled for 10,000 years, he told Kelvin during one session. They have never faced a serious threat. Until now. Why did they abandon their experiments on Earth? Kelvin asked. Zexatral's black eyes seemed to look into the distance. Your species was deemed too unpredictable. The genetic modifications created unexpected results. You were supposed to be stronger, but obedient. Instead, you became creative. The greatest surprise came 3 weeks after the battle. A new ship appeared in Earth's orbit, larger and more elegant than the Imperial vessels. It made no aggressive moves, simply broadcasting a message in all Earth languages. Representatives of the Galactic Council request permission to land and discuss terms. The landing site was prepared in a large open field outside of New York. World leaders gathered, along with military forces armed with disruptor weapons just in case. The alien ship descended silently. It was beautiful with flowing lines that seemed almost organic. A doorway appeared and 3 figures emerged. They were not like the Imperials. These aliens were shorter, with golden skin and 4 arms. They wore no weapons, only simple robes, with complex patterns. We are the governing triad of the Galactic Council, one said in perfect English. We come to speak with the leaders of Earth. In the conference that followed, humanity learned the truth. The Empire was just one faction within a larger galactic community. The Council had allowed the Empire's expansion because it had seemed efficient and peaceful. We did not know of their methods, the alien explained. The suppression of developing species, the forced labor, the cleansing protocols. These violate our oldest laws. Yet you did nothing to stop them, President Bell said. We have been complacent for too long. Your resistance has awakened us to this failing. The Council representatives made an unprecedented offer. Earth would be recognized as a sovereign world, with rights to all planets in its solar system. Furthermore, humanity would be invited to join the Council as equals. Your species has demonstrated qualities we have not seen in millennia, the alien said. Adaptability, creativity, the courage to fight against overwhelming odds. In the days that followed, more details emerged. The Empire had been acting beyond its authority in many star systems. Its aggressive expansion had been driven by Zextral's faction, not approved by the full Council. They believed that by the time the Council learned the full extent of their actions, it would be too late to stop them. Kelvin explained to the Defense Council. They didn't count on us. 1 month after the Council's visit, humanity made its first official trip to another star system. The ship, named Unity, carried representatives from Earth's nations. Frank was its captain, with Maria as his second-in-command. Olivia, Samantha, and Kelvin joined as part of the diplomatic team. As they prepared to activate the faster-than-light drive, Frank looked at his crew. A year ago, we didn't know aliens existed. Now we're about to visit their homeworld. Maria smiled. They thought we were primitive. They thought we would surrender or die. They were wrong. The ship accelerated, stars blurring around them. Through the neural interface that connected him to the ship, Frank could feel the excitement of his crew, their thoughts bright and diverse compared to the rigid patterns of Imperial minds. On a view screen, Earth grew smaller behind them. Ahead lay a galaxy filled with worlds to discover, allies to meet, and perhaps other threats to face. They gave us one final warning, Frank said. But they never understood who they were dealing with. In the black void of space, the Unity disappeared, in a flash of light, carrying humanity's hopes to the stars. Behind them, Earth continued to change. Imperial technology was studied and adapted. The disruptor devices were improved. And in schools around the world, children learned a new lesson, that humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons or technology, but its ability to adapt, to think differently, to face impossible odds and still find a way to win. The final warning had been issued, but it had become humanity's greatest opportunity.